Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video. And yes, you read the title, and as I teased in the last review video, I go from one DreamWorks animated feature film to another, and this being the third and final installment of the first trilogy about a panda who becomes a dragon warrior. Yes, so again, the third and final installment in the first trilogy. And at the time, it seemed like this was going to be the last of this franchise, but not anymore. Nope. So that's right, guys. I am reviewing the third and final installment of this DreamWorks animated feature franchise, etc., about a panda who becomes the dragon warrior. Kung Fu Panda 3. Yes, Kung Fu Panda 3. Yeah, unfortunately, for Kung Fu Panda 3, it's not the best, just like what the first two were like, but it's not god-awful in any way. It's really good. You know, the story to this is really good. The fact that what was mentioned and brought up in the last Kung Fu Panda film would be in the next one, and we would dive into it, and we would know more, and the fact that Po would be reunited with his kind and his actual father. Yeah, so it was, I think, yeah, it was totally obvious. Yeah, totally obvious that what was in Kung Fu Panda 2, it would be saved for a third Kung Fu Panda film. Not to mention how Kung Fu Panda 2 ended off. Well, it ended off where, yeah, we're most likely getting a third Kung Fu Panda film. And of course, which we did. I think, yeah, if I have or if I have not established this before, I think, yeah, I saw the first two. I do remember seeing the second one, but I don't remember if my parents and I, we saw the first Kung Fu Panda film on the big screen. But again, I remember very well we saw the second one. But for the third film, we missed out seeing it in theaters. I do remember when it was coming, and the fact that it was delayed next year in 2016 because, you know, they didn't want to compete with Star Wars Episode 7, and yeah, I can see why, and it's very understandable. And when it did come out the following year, yeah, again, because it was received pretty well, but again, it didn't hold up like what the first two brought. But again, that's not to say it was terrible. I'm sure, yeah, because it's kind of mixed, but at the same time, it's really good. Like, you know, like, say, Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 87%, like, score, I want to say. Well, golly, because how Rotten Tomatoes has rated all of the Kung Fu Panda films, awesome. They really seem to love Kung Fu Panda. Who doesn't? So, yeah. I mean, you know, because when the first film came out, everybody just doubted it. But when it came out, yeah, they all regretted what they first said about, you know, the first film and what would come next in this new DreamWorks animated franchise, I tell ya. All right, so as always, read the description / the story. Living large and loving life, Po realizes that he has a lot to learn if he's going to fulfill the next challenge from his beloved instructor. After reuniting with his long-lost father, Po must transition from student to teacher and train a group of fun-loving, clumsy pandas to become martial arts fighters. Yeah. Together, the Kung Fu Brethren unite to take on the evil Kai, a supernatural warrior who becomes stronger with each battle. So, with the film itself, well, first off, have to, talk about with it starting off with the DreamWorks logo, because with the Kung Fu Panda films and how they do the DreamWorks logo in that Kung Fu Panda style, for the third film, it's Po and, having to deal with stairs and, start off without me. He's kind of breaking the fourth wall, but of course he makes it up to the moon. So that was a funny way to open it. And yeah, I just feel like mentioning this also, that this being the Kung Fu Panda 3, I should say, being the only Kung Fu Panda film to also, to be distributed by 20th Century Fox, because if you guys remember and know, because, there was a time when 20th Century Fox, now called 20th Century Studios, they distributed a couple of DreamWorks films, and yeah, the last one being Captain Underpants. So yeah. So again, with the movie, because one of the first characters we see, and who we didn't see in the second film, but he comes back, Oogway. Yeah, we see Oogway in the spirit realm, and Oogway once again being voiced by Randall Duke Kim, if I'm saying the middle name right. Yeah. And, he's doing interpiece, and, he gets a little tickle on his nose, and, he sneezes. And his interpiece gets interrupted by the main villain / antagonist of this film, Kai, being voiced by the one and only J.K. Simmons. Now, Kai, I think, was a pretty good villain, and very menacing and terrifying, but at the same time, like with the other Kung Fu Panda villains, they have a pretty good sense of humor. They have their funny moments, and that does go for Kai, of course. And, of course, J.K. Simmons, J.K. Simmons, no matter what he does, he never disappoints. Especially when he's doing something animated. And, that same year when he was in Kung Fu Panda 3, well, he also did Zootopia. So, him being in 2 big animated films that came out the same year, that's really cool. And fun fact, because Kai is the first Kung Fu Panda villain to be voiced by someone who's not British. So I think, yeah, you would know that. So yeah, Kai showing up, and it turns out that, well, there's a little connection between Kai and Oogway, and according to Oogway, their battle had ended 500 years ago? Yeah. And Kai, he fights against Oogway, and Kai imprisons Oogway, as a keychain. And something about Kai's necklace and those, suspicious keychains he has, and, he uses them. So, we find out later on what those keychains do. They glow green and such. And Kai attempting to, make his way back into the real world, go from the spirit realm and make his way into the real world, and to, collect more power and such, and to take on the Dragon Warrior. And of course, we get our introduction of, the Dragon Warrior, everybody's favorite beloved panda, Po, once again being voiced by Jack Black. His trainer / master, Shifu, once again being voiced by Dustin Hoffman. And the Furious Five, Tigress, once again being voiced by Angelina Jolie. Monkey, once again being voiced by Jackie Chan. Mantis, Seth Rogen. Viper, Lucy Liu. And Crane, David Cross. Yeah. And their introduction, because it seems like you think at first they're gonna do fight off against someone, because they're running, but what they were doing was they made their way to Po's dad's noodle shop. And of course, Mr. Ping, once again being voiced by James Hong. And by this point, Master Shifu has basically have Po become a trainer, a teacher, to teach the Furious Five. Even though that the Furious Five already know their kung fu skills and so on. But still, with Po training them, obviously, and we should have seen this coming, it doesn't go so well. The instructions that Po gives to them, it just doesn't go well. Just them getting beaten and such, and Tigress cannot get hurt by flames, apparently. And even, like, the geese that were there, like, you know, shooting the arrows with flames. And after all that training turns into a disaster, and even Poe, of course he's disappointed by what happened. The geese are kind of insulting Poe, and yeah, he heard it. And Shifu stepping in and, you know, I think, yeah, assuring Poe. And there's something new that we learn, as well as Poe, that's first established in this third Kung Fu Panda film. Chi, if I'm pronouncing that right. Now, what Chi is, Chi refers to a spiritual energy found in living things in the Kung Fu Panda universe. It is presumably a power associated with Kung Fu. Yeah. So I think, yeah, it's Chi, if I'm pronouncing that right. I mean, they say that word a lot of times in this movie, so I'm just saying. So this is where in Kung Fu Panda 3, we learn about Chi, and it's very powerful, and Shifu giving Poe a demonstration, and basically, with Chi, you're the palm of your hands, and Shifu, like, demonstrating it, like, you know, trying to bloom a flower and such. And I think, if I remember correctly, yeah, because no luck trying to really get the flower to bloom. And also, the Jade Palace, because I think it's gotten a couple of updates. There's a lot of stoned statues of past, you know, warriors, you know, of the Jade Palace, and of course, most notably, Oogway. So, once again, you know, Poe's training not going so well, and we see that, well, Kai, he's made his way into the spirit realm, and, you know, Oogway terrifying this one rabbit and one goose. They were cropping a farm, I want to say, you know, crops. And Kai, I almost said Oogway, Kai showing up, and it was funny, the goose just, you know, laying eggs because how terrified he is. You know, that's the goose way of, I guess, crapping your pants, basically. The fear dump. I'm just saying. I don't mean to sound gross, but in a way it's true. So you get the joke. And Kai is introducing himself to them, but they don't know who he is. And Kai mentions about, you know, him knowing Oogway, and they know Oogway. And they go on talking about how great Oogway was, and Kai just, you know, okay, that's enough. So he doesn't want to hear any more about that. And how pretty much it's you know, Kai has been forgotten about, but he attempts, you know, for Oogway's name to be forgotten, have Oogway be forgotten, as he mentioned, and staring at the, you know, keychain where, you know, he imprisoned Oogway. So, and back at, you know, the Jade Palace and, you know, the village, Poe, we see him taking a bath, and still feeling bad, of course, about, you know, the failed training he did, and him in the bathtub, and Poe being Poe, like, playing with his action figures, even Mr. Ping calling them dolls, but he corrects his dad that they're action figures. And yeah, that's what they are. They're action figures. I'm on Poe's side. That's what they are. And yeah, Mr. Ping, you know, consulting with Poe and setting him straight, basically. And, I think, if I remember correctly, because what's going on at Mr. Ping's noodle shop, like, some, like, Poe event or whatever it is, like a dumpling eating challenge, and, like, a contest of who can who's the best impersonator, to impersonate and do an impression of Poe. And we see the best one, it's a pig, and, you know, her saying skadoosh. The dumpling eating challenge actually is happening in the shop, and Poe and Mr. Ping, they're just like, what's going on? You know, who's paying for them, as Mr. Ping says. And we see a big panda is doing the challenge, and turns out it's Poe's dad, Lee, if I am pronouncing that name right, and Poe's dad being voiced by the one and only Bryan Cranston. Now, yeah, Poe's dad did make a very short appearance slash cameo right at the end of Kung Fu Panda 2, and in Kung Fu Panda 2, his dad was voiced by Fred Tatasciore, but for the third film, it's Bryan Cranston. I mean, it's obvious, like, DreamWorks didn't know at the time, who was going to be the official voice for Poe's dad, but of course, they knew when they cast Bryan Cranston. And Bryan Cranston, like, this is Bryan Cranston we're talking about. Just like J.K. Simmons. Like J.K. Simmons, Bryan Cranston he too is not a disappointment. He's good at anything. So even if say both Bryan Cranston, each of them, Bryan Cranston and J.K. Simmons, if they're in like a movie that's they're still good. Don't you think? So I'm just saying. So yeah, this is where Poe and his biological father, they are reunited. And throughout most of the film, should have seen it coming too, because Mr. Ping gets very jealous. Yeah. And it's nice to see father and son reunited. And and then what happens next is Poe takes his dad to inside the Jade Palace, and well, like his son, Lee has trouble with stairs. And there's this thing that's mentioned a couple of times in Kung Fu Panda 3. Panda... it slipped out of my head. Asthma. Yeah, panda asthma. Asthma. Yeah. Yeah, so it's mentioned a couple of times. I guess, for the pandas in Kung Fu Panda, like, they can't handle stairs. So again, Poe giving his father a tour, I should say, of the Jade Palace, and like his son, because him just finding everything cool, all the displays and everything that's in the Jade Palace, even that vase, if I'm saying that right, that Poe broke. It was fixed up, and even like say a dolphin armor, because there was a dolphin kung fu warrior, an eagle kung fu warrior, and an armor of a rhino kung fu warrior that Poe's dad tries on, and they get a little carried away. They start having fun, and all that is interrupted when Shifu and the Furious Five stepped in, and just like, what is going on, Poe? Just like, what is the reasoning? What is the meaning of this? And when Poe introduces, right as he was about to introduce his dad, when he lifted up that helmet piece of, the rhino armor, and they could see his eyes, well, they immediately know that it's Poe's dad. And, they're happy to see Poe reunited with his dad, and his dad being there. The honor it is for them to meet Poe's actual father. But all that is interrupted when, well, chaos and disaster arrives at the China Village, the Jade Palace and such. And of course, this is Kai's doing. These green glowing figures, well, that come from Kai, and of course, that necklace he has with those glowing green pieces, keychains, yeah, because it's basically, Kai has them under his control, and you can see, like, he's controlling them, and with his eyes. He has imprisoned not just Oogway, but other kung fu warriors. Like, there's I think it's a hedgehog warrior? Yeah. And a couple of others. I think a croc warrior. In fact, yeah, we see a croc warrior before he too is imprisoned, but until I get to them. And Poe telling his dad that, this is what I do, like, this is the moment for you to see me in action as the Dragon Warrior. And Lee, of course, being concerned, on his son getting hurt, as any parent would, even if they're older. So, and Poe, Poe is always finding things cool, even if it's something serious going on. Even, like, Poe had a sketcher draw the action, what was going on. And even, like, he had there was a different sketcher that drew a picture of both Poe and his dad when they first reunited at the noodle shop. And Mr. Ping getting in the picture. Yeah. And boy, just with Mr. Ping getting jealous, but, later on, Mr. Ping and Lee, they grow attached, and yeah, things get better with Mr. Ping, I should say, and the relationship between him and Lee, yeah, of course, that's later on in the film. And also, more on, the green glowy figures controlled by Kai. Well, yeah, they, like I said, obviously, because they're kung fu warriors, they're imprisoned by Kai, and they're under his control. And they are Jade soldiers. The Legion of Jade soldiers being controlled by Kai, and Kai, who stole the chi that they had. And yeah, because, having more power and such, and more on that, because when Po, Shifu, and the Furious Five, they learn more about Kai, this new threat. And between Monkey and Po, because they call them Jinx, Monkey and Po, they call them Zombies. So that's the name for them, Zombies. Yeah. So, I mean, at least we know, what they are. So anyways, so eventually, because, by taking on the Zombies, as Monkey and Po called them, and in the noodle shop, because, taking down the Zombies, and Kai, because, again, he has them under his control, because Kai, he talks directly to Po and the Furious Five and Shifu, and, well, the Zombies are talking too, and they're a bit confused, and Kai explaining that, I'm talking through them, etc. I'm the one who's talking, and he introduces himself to them, that he's Kai, and, they're like, who? They don't know who Kai is, and Kai's like, okay, that's enough, like, yeah, Kai's done for now, so, and, well, thus, Po, Shifu, and the Furious Five, they go through, I guess, the archives in the Jade Palace to find out who Kai is, and they stumble upon evidence on who Kai is, and at first, when Shifu opens it, it's blank. Not again, as he says, just like what happened with the Dragon's Scroll, but thankfully, yeah, it's not blank. And so they learn who Kai is, which was written by Oogway himself, his own handwriting, and we get a backstory about Kai, as well as Oogway. Both of them were friends at the time. At first they were friends, and the two of them were really good warriors. They fought the enemies, and, at one point, Oogway was very wounded, and Kai carried Oogway, I think, as Oogway explains, for 2 days to find someone to help Oogway, and what happens next is Kai and Oogway, they stumble upon a hidden, secret, village that's inhabited by pandas, and the pandas help out Oogway with the chi. The pandas have the chi, and Oogway, learning this, and for Kai, well, he sees this, I think, he got furious because of how it was turning out for Oogway, and he wanted more. He wanted more power, and, well, Oogway had no choice but to stop, his friend, and, well, at one point, because Oogway did defeat Kai, and by banishing him into the spirit realm. So, yeah, for many years, Kai was imprisoned in the spirit realm until this movie, where, he has his revenge and seeking more power, and of course taking on Po, and so on, getting the chai. So, and basically Po has to learn about the power of chai. He needs to have it, and in order to do so, well, Lee tells his son that, he can teach his son about the chai, but they have to do it. But in order for them to do that, they have to go to this secret village that's inhabited by pandas, because Lee did mention it early on when, they first reunited at the noodle shop, and telling Po that, about this secret panda village, and, Po can't speak it out, shout it out. And Mr. Ping, he's not so sure about this. Like, he doesn't want Po to go. But Shifu and the Furious Five, they know that Po has to go to the Panda Village so he can learn about the power of Chai and, of course, take on and defeat Kai. So, Lee and Po, they make their way their destination to the Panda Village, and they discover that Mr. Ping, well, tagged along. He snuck into, I think, like, Poe's backpack of food. Yeah, because he's not gonna stay behind. He's going with his adopted son, and still being jealous, so. And with that, because, well, Shifu and the Furious Five remaining at the Jade Palace, but at one point, Shifu instructs Crane, as well as Mantis, to, go find Kai where he's at, as of right now. And, yeah, and it was a funny moment between Crane and Mantis got pulled into this after what Mantis was saying. So, yeah. So Po, Lee, and Mr. Ping, they make their destination to the Hidden Panda Village. It's a very snowy place. Sometimes, yeah, it would be snowy. And you think that they're going to have to take stairs, but no, there is an elevator that, good, nice to see that they don't have to deal with stairs, especially Po and his dad. So they take this elevator, and we see, all different, kind of pandas, and it's nice to see that you can tell which panda is which. Yeah, it's obvious, because, one who is an elderly panda, one who is a hugger, little panda cubs, and one with bad-looking teeth, and one who at first has an attraction for Po, is good with, those ribbons, that you would see at China, those dancers with those, you get what I'm saying. And let me see, because their names, like, Shirley, because, oh yeah, because I almost forgot that he did a voice in this. I don't think I even knew that was him. Wayne Knight had a voice. Well, he did two voices. Obviously, yeah, one of the pandas he voiced, Big Fun, and he voiced another character named Hom Lee. Yeah, and there's Grandma Panda being voiced by Barbara Durkison, if I'm saying that right. And Fred Tatasciore, he does a voice in this too. And yeah, that's the thing, because coming back to Crane and Mantis, they meet up with two Kung Fu warriors. I assume, yeah, they're one of the Jade Palace soldiers. Yeah. One of them being Master Bear, being voiced by Fred Tatasciore. And there was another, yeah, Master Croc. Yeah, here he is, Master Croc, being voiced by Jean-Claude Van Damme, if I'm saying that right, yeah. He voices Master Croc, Jean-Claude. And they meet up at this desert, Crane and Mantis, with Master Croc and Master Bear, at this desert, this wrecked ship, and, of course, there awaits Kai, and Kai taking on Master Bear, Master Croc, and, of course, Mantis and Crane, unfortunately. The first two members of the Furious Five being held captive and under Kai's control. Yeah, so poor Mantis and Crane. So, once again, them trying to take on Kai, but he got them, and thus, they're imprisoned in his necklace of those keychains and under his control. Okay, so coming back to the Panda Village, and with the pandas, okay, so Hom Lee is the one with the bad-looking teeth, being voiced by Wayne Knight, and Big Fun is the one panda who's a hugger, being voiced by Wayne Knight. I just don't know, again, I don't know how I didn't recognize Wayne Knight's voice. Like, this is Wayne Knight we're talking about. I'm just saying. And there's also a couple of the panda cubs. One of them, Lily, if I'm saying that right, being voiced by Liam Knight. Yeah, she's cute and adorable, and how she, is attached to one of Poe's action figures, Tigress, and referring to Tigress as Stripey Baby. Even Poe was not comfortable with her having one of his action figures, was almost gonna take it from her, but she just started getting emotional, and, well, he has no choice but to let her have it. So yeah. So again, the little panda girl calling Tigress, Stripey Baby. That was funny. And until, she meets the actual Tigress. And the one female panda, with those bows, no, the streamers, Mimi, if I'm saying that name right, being voiced by Kate Hudson. Yeah, Kate Hudson, voicing that one female panda. And, yeah, I know Kate Hudson. Yeah, I've seen her before in some films. So, yeah, the pandas are happy to see that Lee has found his son, and they're just amazed by some things that Poe is doing that, well, they haven't done, and they're learning for the first time, like most notably chopsticks. They discover and learn about the use of chopsticks. And Poe, he learns from the pandas, about how they eat, with their own paws, and eating more than just one dumpling. And basically, what happens next, until and in order for Poe to learn about the power of the chi, he must learn how to actually be a panda. And we get a little montage of him, knowing the ways of being a panda and such. A lot of funny stuff that happens in the Panda Village. Again, because with some of these panda characters from Big Fun and Hom Lee and Grandma Panda, I tell ya, and Mr. Ping, because, well, of course, Mr. Ping, as he always does, fixing noodles and, the foods that he fixes at his noodle shop. And, slowly but surely, Mr. Ping, he lightens up, and especially, over Poe's actual dad. And back at the Jade Palace, well, because by this point, Kai, making his way to the Jade Palace, and, Shifu receives information about, what's been going on and such, and I think with Crane and Mantis, and they see that Crane has made his way back, but no, it's not Crane, at least, the Crane they know, because again, him being under control, both Crane and Mantis under the control of Kai, and that sequence where Kai, comes face-to-face with Shifu and the last three remaining members of the Furious Five, Monkey, Viper, and Tigress. And Kai, because he stares at Oogway's stone statue, and, him saying, I treated him like a brother, and he betrayed me, and I'm going to destroy everything he started! And thus, Kai unleashing chaos, and, of course, taking on the Furious Five and Shifu, but unfortunately they fail to defeat Kai, and so two more members of the Furious Five are held captured and under the control of Kai, and those being Monkey and Viper. It's a good thing that Tigress didn't get captured, because, more on that, because later, in just a moment, because, well, what happens next is that Kai literally destroys the Jade Palace, and like he said, he, destroying everything that Oogway started, well, he for sure did, by destroying the Jade Palace, even destroying some of the stone statues, and of course, the stone statue of Oogway, and just Tigress and Shifu just seeing what's happening, and Shifu just feeling distraught by this, and, saying, praying to Oogway, forgive me, Oogway. But it really wasn't, it's not Shifu's fault, And of course, Oogway, would be aware of what's going on, even though, because, he's imprisoned. And sure enough, Shifu gets captured and imprisoned and under the control of Kai, Tigress, she's all that's left. And even Shifu instructs Tigress, to go to Po and to warn him about Kai. Because, Kai is, after what he did at the Jade Palace, he's coming to Po's destination, to his direction. So again, Tigress being all that's left of the Furious Five and at the Jade Palace. And it's nice to see that Tigress was the only one that survived and, was still with Po, because out of any of the Furious Five members, the one that really connected with Po and, with the first two films, and, their friendship grew, that being Tigress. How she treated Po in the first film, but what would happen in the second film, their friendship really growing, and Tigress, in the second Kung Fu Panda film, not wanting to see her friend get killed. Do you know where I'm going with this? That is good development right there for the character of Tigress. Because of her, how she acted, again, her personality, especially towards Po in the first film. But like I said, I think you get my point, and that's really good. That's really good. And that's why, and I have no doubt that the DreamWorks people, they knew about this, and they knew that, if one of the members of the Furious Five were to survive, and, one being a part of the Jade Palace, it'd have to be Tigress. And it's a good thing they did. Okay, now coming back to the Panda Village, more between Po and his biological father, Lee. Well, and obviously, Po's mother had to be talked about more, and, her established in the third film, because there's a very emotional moment where Lee shows his son Po a drawing / picture of him and his mother. And, Lee talking about how much he loved his wife and, / Po's mother. And, of course, what happened that very night when, Lord Shane and his wolf army, his army of wolves, came in and attacked the Panda Village, and Po's mother had to keep her son safe and leave him behind, and in order to get the wolves' attention. And how, we do get it, it's, archival footage of, I assume, of, Kung Fu Panda 2, and how, we get a glimpse of the wolves and Lord Shen. So, of course, that had to be established, and, even though they don't mention him by name, still, Lord Shen, God, that evil peacock, God, he was a great villain for sure in the Kung Fu Panda franchise. Him making an appearance, so, and, it gets really emotional, so, and, Lee saying that, he thought that he lost his son, that being Po, of course, and Po assuring his dad that, you're not going to lose your son again. And it was funny, because when they went for a hug, Big Fun stepped in, had to make it humorous. Anything like that in Kung Fu Panda, when it gets emotional and intense, there always has to be a funny moment. And, it has to be done in the right way. And I think every time when stuff like that happens in the Kung Fu Panda films, they're always done right. So again, Big Fun coming in for a hug. He wants to join in the hugging. And so later on, we see that Tigress, she finally made her way to the Panda Village, warning Po what happened at the Jade Palace. Kai is on his way, and of course, the little girl panda, meeting the actual Tigress, and again, calling her Stripey Baby and going in for a hug. And by this point, Po, he needs to know now about, the secret of the power of the chi, and like the pandas, they kind of scatter because, disaster is coming to them, and Po, he needs to know from his dad about the chi, the power of the chi, and Lee is telling his son that he's not ready, and at one point at a bridge, well, that's when things kind of go downhill. Not really, but still, because of, a sad moment, where Lee tells his son the truth that he doesn't know the power. He didn't learn it, but, and as he says that, pandas before him and the others, they learned it, but not them, not the current pandas. And, well, obviously, the past pandas, and, when they helped, Oogway, they knew it. But the pandas, the current pandas at that village, they don't know it. And this upsets Poe, and, even Lee, because, he lied to his son, but not intentionally, but, because when he thought that he lost his son, and which, of course, Poe is alive, and he didn't want to lose his son again. And Poe telling it, Lee, that, you've lost your son because of what happened, because, how, of course, Lee didn't mean to lie, but he still did, just how hurt Poe is. And by this point, Poe, because I tell you, Poe, whenever he gets serious, he gets serious. And, him training himself, to prepare and take on Kai. And there is a good moment between Lee and Mr. Ping, because this is where Mr. Ping, he really bonds with Poe's actual dad, and telling Lee that, with him being jealous, he thought that Lee was going to take Poe away from him. And, Mr. Ping admitted that was, foolish of him. And by the way, because there's some really good quotes / wise words in this movie, some that come from Shifu, Mr. Ping, and of course, Oogway. So yeah, and that's where, Mr. Ping and Lee, like I said, they really bond and such. And a moment where, because Poe, he's training himself to prepare and take on Kai, Tigra's stepping in, and she's telling Poe that he can't defeat and take on Kai. Kai is impossible at first to take on, for Poe to take on. And by this point, Poe, he finally gives in and, says, saying, maybe I'm not the Dragon Warrior, maybe I'm not a panda, I don't know who I am. And, there's no way that he can take on Kai alone. But sure enough, well, Poe's two dads stepping in and assuring Poe that he's not doing this alone. He has an army. And what happens next is Poe starts training the pandas, what to do, and, from, say, the noodle group, each different groups, and in order to take on the zombies, and get a pretty good montage, and it's also funny, a good / funny montage of Poe training the pandas. Basically, Poe is teaching them how to be him, what he has done, what we've seen Poe do whenever he gets into any kung fu fights, especially, say, best example, his big fat belly and such, And Tigress, she's just like, what? She's just really wondering, what Poe is really up to and with this training. And all while Tigress is, she's trying to avoid the little girl panda, stripey baby. It's funny. And Tigress just being what? And by this point, when how far they've completed their training, Poe saying to himself, but also to Tigress, that, they're ready. And Tigress, what? But, until what happens next, what the pandas do, taking on the zombies. And so the time comes when Kai finally arrives, and by hearing the sound of his, whiplashing blades, that's the best I can describe, them glowing green, and right before Kai showed up and they heard the sound of his weapons swinging, because I have to mention this, because Tigress, she's, starting to really bond with the little panda girl, stripey baby, even, having a little tea party and, wearing these, dumplings and flowers, whatever they are. In fact, I remember because when Po first arrived at the Panda Village, they gave him like a dumpling necklace, which they ate. So yeah. So again, Kai finally showing up, and thus, for the first time, Po and Kai face to face, not up close, but and Po introducing himself, and he knows who Kai is, and describing who Kai is, and Kai, he's like, thank you, someone understands and knows me, despite, those two farmers when Kai first arrived in the real world, and Po just, then he says, a lot of chit-chat, and Kai getting pissed, and he unleashes hell, basically, and, the zombies, they are spawned, and Kai ordering them to take them all out, and so on. And thus, the pandas, they begin to take on the zombies, and as how Po trained them in each different groups and such. Even, like from Mimi and Big Fun and Hom Lee, because, Mimi, the one that had an attraction for Po, and with those ribbons, Po teaching her how, to use nunchucks, and, for Big Fun, of course, going for a hug, and Hom Lee, all that Hom Lee does is just, staring at the zombies with his ugly teeth, and they're just grossed out, and it's really cool, and a nice detail, because, Oogway, not Oogway, Kai, because he's controlling them, and he can see from the zombies' point of view what's going on, even over Hom Lee with his teeth, and Po, seeing Mantis and Crane, Monkey, and Viper, and Shifu, them being zombies, and for Po, and when it comes to Shifu chasing Po, Po, he doesn't want to hurt his master / trainer, and that's nice of Po. But because Po won't hit Shifu, his two dads will. We see Mr. Ping and Lee in action together, having their own armor and attached, and them taking on Master Shifu as a zombie and all the other zombies. And it all comes down to Po and Kai, because once all the pandas have defeated the zombies, now Po making his way to take on Kai, he rolls like the pandas, and that's another thing, because him rolling like the pandas, it was one of those things when he was learning how to be a panda, rolling on grass and such, and him rolling and making a giant snowball and aiming directly at Kai, and Po attempting to do the whooshy finger on Kai, and even, when that talk that Tigress and Po had, and Po mentioning it to Tigress, and when he tries to do the whooshy finger and, saying his catchphrase, skadoosh, it's not working. And it turns out he can't do that on, he can't do that on an immortal being, and Kai being immortal. And yeah, because it's not going so well with, Po taking on Kai, but with Kai just beating Po's butt, and what's going to happen next? What's Po going to do? And even when Kai is insulting Po, just, a stupid mortal, as he calls him, but that's not what Po is. And Po figures out at one point that, he can't defeat Kai in the real world, but he can in the spirit realm. So what happens next is that he takes Kai with him into the spirit realm, and so we see Po and Kai in the spirit realm, and, of course, still fighting, and at one point, Po is starting to lose against Kai. Kai is taking Po's chi, and is gonna turn him into a zombie, because slowly, the glowing green, coming up to him, and, about to make it up to the top of his head, and that's when, back in the real world, Tigress, Lee, Mr. Ping, and all the pandas, they come together, and they discover and learn something that Poe taught them on who they really are, from Lee. He says, what Poe taught him, being a father to Tigress, a friend, and all the pandas, because of what Poe taught them, a hugger and so on, and a panda with with nunchucks, and Lily, Stripey Baby, as she calls Tigress, saying Stripey Baby, and for Mr. Ping, family, and we see their hands glowing, shiny because of the power of the chi. And what happens is that, because we see the handprints on Poe, they are saving Poe, and thus Poe taking on Kai, and Poe by this point is more powerful, and he realizes who he is. And even at first Kai was questioning Poe, who are you? And Poe in response, that's what I asked myself too. Am I, the father of a goose? Am I a panda? Am I the dragon warrior? And he realizes he's all of that, and he is the dragon warrior. And seeing a glowy dragon, however you call it, and the dragon is talking as Poe is talking too. So you see that's the dragon warrior. Another funny moment with Poe finding it awesome and sweet. And of course, what happens next is, Poe defeating and taking on Kai, and he gives Kai the power of the chi, the spiritual energy and such. And when Kai gets it, it's too much for Kai. And that was Kai's mistake, because, I wouldn't want to say he realized his mistake, but, it was just too much for him. All that spiritual energy that Kai is getting of chi, it's too much for him, and thus he is defeated once and for all. Yeah, Poe, he found a way to defeat Kai in the spirit realm. And after Kai is defeated, all of those that he imprisoned and he controlled from the Jade, warriors, soldiers, kung fu fighters, from, say, Master Bear, Master Croc, and there was even a chicken, Master Chicken. Yeah, and Master Chicken being voiced by, Stephen Caron. I know the name Stephen Caron. And this is the first time we see a different type of bird. We have crane, of course, but, this bird we see is a chicken. So that's cool to see. Anything's possible, for any animal to be a kung fu fighter, and in this case, a chicken. So yeah. And of course, the Furious Five members from Mantis, Monkey, Viper, Crane, and Master Shifu, they're freed as well. And it was pretty funny because Mantis, he was worried about the color of the color of him, the tone of green, because Poe made a comment on that when he saw, when they were zombies, and when Mantis was still green, but because he was a zombie, different type of green. But no, he's back to his old, green color, and the little girl panda grabs Mantis, and Bug Baby, whatever she says, but yeah, playing Mantis as a toy, that was pretty funny. So yeah, again, everybody is back, and they're freed. They're all free from being under Kai's control. They're all back except for Poe. Where's Poe? Well, he's still in the spirit realm, and what happens next is Poe, he meets and reunites with Master Oogway, and Oogway, being very proud of Poe, and, Poe has grown up and become, more powerful, and Poe is wondering if he could get back. Oogway is telling Poe if he would want to stay or go back, and Poe can decide, and of course Poe decides to go back. Oogway he even gives Po a staff that he had, and Po, he's not sure if he wants to have it, but Oogway assures him, don't worry, I have a bigger one. So he has another staff, and Po can have that one. And thus, Po and Oogway saying their goodbyes, and Po, he makes his way back into the real world. He's reunited with everybody, and of course, his two dads, and everybody coming in for a group hug. And Master Shifu sees, where did you get that staff? And, Oogway gave it to me in the spirit realm, and I now have, I can now master the power of the chi, and Shifu just being upset, and, Oogway taught you that, didn't you? And so on, like, oh, Shifu. And what Shifu says next to Po is, maybe you can train me? Basically, training Shifu the power of the chi. Yeah, that's nice to see. And the epilogue, everybody is at the Jade Palace. It's been reconstructed. Didn't take them that long, I guess, to reconstruct it. And we even see, still, the little girl Panda still playing with, of course, the Tigress action figure of Po's, and Mantis still. Monkey, having a laugh at it when Mantis is asking Monkey for help. And yeah, Po training everybody the power of the chi, and all their hands, glowing and such, shiny and so on. And yeah, that was a great way to end the film. And a new version of the song "Everybody Was Kung Fu Fighting." The chorus to that was good. It was really good. And again, a great way to end it. And once all their hands are shining, and with the power of the chi, it sends out a blast wave, and we even see like flowers really blooming. Yeah, and thus the end, and more of the "Everybody Was Kung Fu Fighting" song, with the chorus, and yeah, a great way to end the film right there. Kung Fu Panda 3, I think, is awesome. It's another really good Kung Fu Panda film, and for it being the third installment of the Kung Fu Panda franchise, it's a shame, and I don't understand why this couldn't have the same power like what the first two had. You know what I mean? It's really a shame, and there is no doubt, not just me, but everybody else, they really enjoy the third installment. And like I said, the third Kung Fu Panda film was not a disappointment at all. It really wasn't. It was still good. The story was good. The characters and some of the character development, most notably Tigress, need I go on about the characters? And, all those different type of pandas, we know which one is which, and so on, their personalities. The main villain / antagonist of the third installment, Kai, yeah. And again, need I go on about the characters? And, the music, once again, done by the one and only Hans Zimmer. The animation in this is beautiful, as it always is in the Kung Fu Panda films. The funny and emotional moments, they never disappoint. Everything about Kung Fu Panda 3 was really good. And I give it, it's on my mind. I'm giving it, 9 out of 10 stars. Yes, 9 out of 10 stars for Kung Fu Panda 3. And what about you guys? What do you think of Kung Fu Panda 3 itself, the third installment of the Kung Fu Panda franchise, and, this being the third and final installment of the first Kung Fu Panda trilogy? Do you think the story was good? With the characters, the main antagonist / villain, everything that I've had to say about Kung Fu Panda 3. And what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Kung Fu Panda 3. More review videos are on the way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video / review. take care, and until Kung Fu Panda 4, peace out. Skadoosh.